The Spanish Princess is the new historical period drama about Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish princess who became Queen of England during the 16th century. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, and I'm here with the show's star, Charlotte Hope. Charlotte, Catherine of Aragon is a seminal figure in European history. Were you at all apprehensive or nervous about playing her?
She was trending on Twitter yesterday. Did you see that? I got so excited.
Wow.
Everyone's going crazy about it. I wasn't apprehensive. I think mainly because I was so freaking excited. So, and there isn't really time when you're filming a TV show like that. There's not really time. There's not time to be afraid because it was so fast. I got like cast, and then the next day I went to Bristol to do costume fittings, and then next week I was like lines, and then the week after that I was doing rehearsal. The week after that I was filming. So there wasn't really a moment for me to even get like overwhelmed by it because I just had to do the work. So I think probably now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my god, that's how I feel now. At the time, I just didn't have time.
Yeah. Well, take us back to the beginning. How did you land this role?
I was doing a play in New York. I'd loved all of the series. And so I remember these scripts coming through and being obsessed with from like the moment I read it. But I was doing a play, so I was making like self-tape after self-tape after self-tape. And I did like extra self-tapes in Spanish and like that thing of being like, and I'm going to do 2 extra scenes just to show how much I love it, which usually people read as desperation. But maybe it did. But still, I think it worked. So like, yeah, like a ton of self-tapes. And then I actually just got cast off the tapes. So by the first time I met everyone in the room was to do the chemistry tests for Prince Harry. So at that point, I was really terrified that they were going to see me in real life and realize they'd made a huge mistake and recast me. But then it got like about 5 minutes into doing these scenes, and it was the first time I'd acted with someone else as Catherine. I've been doing a lot of these tapes like with whoever I could find in New York, and then suddenly I was like playing her with like an actor playing Harry, and it all became really real and exciting. And yeah, I was like, I kind of forgot all of my anxiety and they're going to recast me, and just tried to enjoy it. Yeah, but yeah, there was a point on the way to that chemistry test where I was reading my agent being like, but hang on, have we signed the contract? And are you sure it's not an audition for me? And she was like, babe, it's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, as soon as I got to start doing it, it was pretty magical.
So, I mean, how familiar were you with Catherine of Aragon? Because she's such a famous figure. I mean, I'm, as a history buff, quite familiar with her story. That's why I was so excited to watch the show. What about you? How did you feel about her? Or did you have to kind of learn about her when you started realizing this role was up for grabs?
I mean, yeah, I'm a bit of a history buff, so I knew a fair bit. But to be honest, I mostly knew the second half of her life. Like, I knew the dissolution of her marriage and then our religion, and I knew the kind of the version of Catherine that's like, she wrote this love letter to Henry on her deathbed, signed it as kind of Queen Catherine, and refuses to ever acknowledge the annulment of their marriage. I knew that version of her. I didn't know the version of her that was young, and that was kind of really interesting to me because it's a kind of like a before they were famous story, and like an origin story, and that's always kind of fascinating as an actor to be like, okay, so I know where this person ends up, but she must have gone on this quite a journey in order to get there, and what is the beginning of that journey?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, because we've seen so many iterations of this character, or so I should say this historical figure, in so many different shows and movies and plays. Like, for example, Marie Doll Kennedy played her in The Tudors, and we've seen her a lot of adaptations of Henry VIII, but it's always towards the end of her life, or when she is the queen and when she's there as part of the Tudor court, but you were able to show us and the team where she came from. So I'm wondering, was that what you were most attracted to when you took on the role?
Yeah, I think so. And also just like to be honest, the thing I was most attracted to was just getting to play a character that is this well-rounded and in it as much as she is. Like that's a real dream for me. And like a princess that is, she's not your typical princess. She's very flawed, and she's very complicated and fiery and petulant, and really working out how to be a monarch, really. So like that was really interesting to me. And also like I was kind of fascinated by this, we had an amazing actress playing Isabella Corralita Borrachero, and she and I talked a lot about how the perception of Catherine in Spain is that she's this like really strong, determined woman, and in our perception is just that she's a kind of like dowdy precursor to sexy Anne Boleyn. So it was really interesting to kind of reassess the narrative and reassess what we think we know about this person, because she does end up as a kind of like a woman with very little agency and with very little power, but she starts as someone who has a lot of power. So it was really fascinating for me to get to explore the kind of unraveling of a woman, really. Like that's, well, I mean, the unraveling, re-raveling, but yeah, it just, like it's a lot of ravels.
There is a lot of ravels. Is it ever tempting, thinking about that she's such a famous figure in literature and film and TV, is it ever tempting to compare how other actors have played her, or is it more important for you to draw inspiration from something new? Like, how does that work when it's something that's been played before?
You know what? Like, I think it probably would be tempting, even on a subconscious level, if there had been a version of Catherine when she was young. But like, I've watched all of those shows. I've read pretty much all of those books. Like, I'm really obsessed with the Gregory books when I was younger. So I'd seen a lot of the versions of older Catherines, that probably subconsciously they were in my system. But with the exception of Constant Princess, I hadn't really seen a version of young Catherine. So even if those performances got under my skin, I think that would probably be a useful thing, because I know where she's going to end up. But it meant that I could really approach my version of Catherine in a very new way, because it's never really been done before. And like, our scripts were freaking amazing. Like, Emma Frost and Matthew Graham wrote these incredible scripts. So there's like a whole bunch of material there. But I felt it felt pretty. It's pretty exciting to discover a version of someone that the later version of them, but not the beginning. I felt like I had a pretty free reign to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah, and what I also really appreciate about this series, just like its predecessors, The White Princess and The White Queen, is that it's fundamentally told from a female perspective, from a female point of view. There's not a lot of TV out there that is told from that perspective. How refreshing is it to be part of a project told from a woman's point of view?
I mean, it's amazing. It was a really, I feel really, really passionately about it. Like, I live in a house of actresses, I was saying earlier. And I really think it's so important for women to collaborate. And this was like doubly exciting, because it's being told from the women's perspective. You take a version of history of Henry VIII's story and you flip it and you go, his story already, let me show you the women around him and their story. That, I think, is so exciting, because I've seen Henry VIII over and over again, but I haven't seen the stories of those women. And that doesn't mean that they didn't exist and they weren't valid. Like, women make up 50% of the population now, and they did back then. And just because their stories haven't been written down in the history books doesn't mean that they weren't really interesting. So from a storytelling perspective, I think it's amazing. And then also from the perspective of, I got to work with a ton of amazing women on this show, which makes me just really proud and inspired. Like, I'm a real believer that women at the moment are at a stage where we're really getting to collaborate a lot and like pull each other up. I spent a lot of my time as an actress like feeling like I was down in the mud, like fighting for roles, and now we're all like pulling each other up out of the mud, and that feels so exciting. I had with the first block direct. Sorry, I'm on a rant because I really feel so passionately about this. But like, our first block direct, this amazing Danish filmmaker called Birgitte Stermus. And she, I think, is just a complete artist and visionary. And I am so grateful that I got to do those first few episodes with her. And now I'm getting to work with her again. I'm doing a Netflix show called The English Game. And it's like the first time in my career where I feel so supported by this amazing woman, by her. I think she's incredible. And I'm so aware that and like Maya Zamojda, our ZOP, we were just kind of holding each other through it, and that just created such a sense of sisterhood and like this kind of team. And yeah, it's just really, I think it's so important that we all hold each other and carry each other and do it together. So I'm so grateful that I got to do that on this job, and I'm getting to continue doing it through.
And to your point, it's really important that we embrace productions like this, especially for people who aren't aware. Most of the writers and directors on The Spanish Princess are women. It's absolutely a women-driven project, both on screen and behind the scenes. And I wonder, what did that mean for the production? Was it palpable, the difference on set, knowing that the people generally in control, there were some men obviously, but were the people in control were women? Yeah. Did you notice a difference?
Yeah, like, look, I think most importantly, I was working with just a ton of really amazing filmmakers. Like, Maya, our DOP, is an amazing woman, but she's also just an absolutely brilliant DOP. The same with Emma Frost, our showrunner. She's an incredible woman, but also just an amazing showrunner. So yeah, part of it's like, well, I just got to work with amazing people. But I do think the fact that it was like, the fact we were all girls meant that it really felt like we were in it together. And it really, like, with Maya and I were in the trenches. Like, we were tired on a Friday afternoon, but we were doing it together. And like, it was a huge opportunity for so many of us that maybe 15 years ago in this industry we might not have got. But the fact that we were being given that opportunity now meant that we ran with it. Like, sorry, I was about to swear there, but you know, like, and it meant that, like, yeah, what we did, it was like, okay, this is my time, let me go. And I got to do, and I wasn't just running on my own. I was running with Maya and with Birgitte and Lisa and Dana and this amazing cast of women. And it just, yeah, I feel really strongly about how amazing women are. So it was kind of, yeah, it was just a magical way to make a show, because yeah, it felt like our time.
Well, it comes off on screen, absolutely. The other thing that is, apart from that, the other thing that's really noticeable, which is pretty obvious given it's a period drama, is how visually stunning the show is. In particular, the costumes. Like, for anybody who's really into costume dramas, this is for you. I always wonder, how important is costuming and production and makeup and all that stuff and the aesthetics of that to get into a character? How important is it?
I think it's hugely important. I mean, the costumes on this are incredible. We have this amazing costume designer called Gay, and they're just, I'm like, my mind is blown by the costumes. But you know what? Also, like the makeup. Our makeup designer is this amazing Swedish makeup designer called Linda de Ojales Afhenas. I'm not going to pronounce her name right.
Wow.
Although she is another talking about like being held by women. Again, I did Spanish Princess with her, and I'm doing the English game with her, and I've never felt more supported in creatively and kind of just professionally. And what I really loved about Linda's makeup is that it never felt glossy or even trying to be pretty. Like, she was really strict about that we weren't allowed any mascara. And it was very, very minimal makeup, so that it was character makeup that made it feel real, and like that was respectful of Catherine and who she was, creating that character rather than just like trying to make me look fit. Like I would, yeah, I've never been an actress that I've never thought of myself as like playing a princess role, because my face is metrical. But what was really amazing to me about Linda is that it was about creating a look that was specific to Catherine and who she is and what she's going through, and yeah, when you combine that and these amazing costumes, I felt really like I was doing a character piece. It didn't feel like a glossy period drama. I felt like I was Catherine.
Wow. I think the way that you portrayed her, to me, there was an authenticity there, and it wasn't about the accent, it wasn't about the costumes, it was about something that you were able to do that made us feel like she was an outsider trying to stake her claim in a world that sees her as an outsider. How much of that did that resonate with you personally when you were trying to bring life to this character?
That's a cool question. You know what? Actually, I think probably I was an outsider. Doing like, I'd never played a lead. I'd never even done a series regular before I did Catherine. So there was when Catherine's like coming to England and trying to like pretend like she knows what she's doing, but also faltering, but also with this like deep steel. That's pretty much what I was going through. I was like trying to convince people that this is exactly where I should be. Also aware that I'd been really hustling for a job like this for 10 years. And so on some level, I really did think it's where I should be. But then also having these like moments where I was like, there was, it was, it was a job that I'd felt like I'd been waiting a really, really long time to do. But that also was at times really intimidating. And I think that, like that's a lot of what Catherine is going through. And I think that's what makes her interesting, is that, if this were just a story about like a really privileged princess, it wouldn't be that interesting. But it's really just a story of a kind of a girl grappling with like who she is and what she wants and what she thinks she's capable of and what she's insecure about, and that's what interesting women are. They're all of the things. Like Catherine is both super confident and totally afraid at the same time. So am I as an actress all the time. So are like most people. Like it's not interesting to me to see she's just strong or she's just vulnerable, which is, like, to be honest, often what you get as an actress. Catherine is all of the things all of the time, and a lot of the time, and a lot of them are really contradictory. And so that was amazing to play, but also easy to access.
Yeah, and that's the key. That's what seems to resonate with all of us, because we all have that, no matter what you do in your profession, and that's really interesting to me. It's authentic. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like, it's that kind of. That's why I was obsessed with Fleabag, because I was like, oh, she's like all of the things, and it's so complicated and contradictory and broken, but that's what is interesting when you're like that's what makes it a portrayal of a woman in this like time interesting, because it's really complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Charlotte, for your time. Good luck with all the awards and accolades and great reviews. And you've got so much more to look forward to, and the English Game, which we will look forward to on Netflix soon. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
To all Spanish Princess fans, go to goldderby.com right now and make your predictions so you can compete against us know-it-alls. Before you go, click subscribe and watch our great chats with contenders just like Charlotte.